Hello, children. Good morning to you all. So, today I want to start with a new lesson in English because you already have submitted your notebooks for correction, right? I hope all of you must have submitted. So that I am taking up the teaching part. So, I will start with a new lesson with new session. Okay, very interesting and humorous lesson I am going to teach you today. Okay, so let us start with our lesson. The name of our lesson is Snake Trouble. Name of our lesson is Snake Trouble. Understand? This is a very interesting story. Understand, this lesson is written by Ruskin Bond. Ruskin Bond is the famous writer. He is famous for writing stories for the children. So, and he used to stay in forest areas generally, where I can tell Jim Corbett side, means North Indian part. Understand? So, he is a writer and he wrote many stories as children's stories, and mostly they were based on forests, animals, etc. Okay, so here is one more interesting story we will have. The name is Snake Trouble. Here the speaker traveled to some other Dehradun, I think, and they carried their pets with them. And these pets, how they troubled, what pet they carried, and how it troubled is our lesson. My grandparents, the speaker means the writer tells, my grandparents and I were going to Lucknow to visit Aunt Ruby. Ruskin Bond, speaker, he says, when he was small, this incident happened. My grandparents and I were going to Lucknow to visit Aunt Ruby. They were going to Lucknow. Who are going? The speaker and his grandparents were going to Lucknow. We had to travel by train, and so we couldn't take any python, monkeys or other unusual pets with us. They had to travel by train. And these people had one habit that they had so many animals as their pets at home. Even the tiger also they had, Timothy. Understand? Even tiger was also their pet. And so, as they were going to Lucknow by train, they could not carry any unusual pets. Unusual means commonly what we keep as pet: parrot, cat, dog, etc. Not any other things. So here they have unusual pets, we don't even dare to go near them. Such animals they kept as their pets. So unusual means uncommon, strange, I can tell. Such pets they had. What were such pets? They were pythons, monkeys, and other unusual pets. I told no, tiger, etc. So shortly after we boarded the train, grandmother stretched herself out on the berth. So they boarded the bus. They got into the train. I'm sorry. Shortly means as soon as quickly as. When they got into the train, the speaker's grandmother stretched herself out on the berth. Means the speaker's grandmother laid down on the berth. Berth means here the long seat in the train. This berth means different. We have this berth in the train. This berth, not this berth. Understand? Don't get confused. So, the speaker's grandmother laid down on the berth and slept. I think I will go to sleep. If you are hungry, you can help yourselves to parathas, omelets and chicken curry from the hamper under the berth. So while sleeping, grandmother told, I don't want to eat anything, I am going to sleep now. If at all you feel like eating, you help yourselves, means you can serve food yourselves. On your own, you take the food from the hamper. Hamper means basket. Hamper. Hamper means what? Basket. Gift hamper antam kada. In many reality shows you get. Hamper means a basket. So you take out what they carried for their dinner. Omelette, parathas and chicken curry. So she told, grandmother told, if you are hungry, I am going to sleep now. If you are hungry, you help yourselves with the food. Means you only serve food for yourself. Why you take out the food from where? From the hamper, means basket what they brought. With parathas. What they got? Parathas, omelette and chicken curry. Understand? Sorry. So, she informed grandfather and the speaker and she went to sleep. I tugged at the hamper and dragged it to the middle of the compartment. As soon as I untied the straps, the lid flew open and it let out a gasp of surprise. In the hamper was our python, curled up contentedly. There was no sign of our dinner. So, as grandmother told, he wanted to eat and sleep. So, the speaker tugged at the means pulled. Tugged means pulled at the hamper and dragged it, pulled it. He caught it and brought it out to the middle of the compartment where they were sitting. In the middle, he kept that basket. As soon as I untied the straps, as soon as untiding means removing the knot of the straps. Understand? Straps untai kada, emantaru handles. He opened those handles. The lid flew open and let out a gasp of surprise. Gasp means a just surprise, look of surprise. Breathlessly they were looking. He was looking into the basket. What could he see? He could see his python, their pet. It was curling into the basket and sitting, sleeping contentedly, satisfactorily, because it already completed his dinner. It had eaten all the food they brought for their dinner. Understand? I let out a gasp of surprise. In the hamper was our python, curled up contentedly. There was no sign of our dinner. Everything it ate. So it was in the basket. Actually, grandmother did not bring any such unusual pets nor the speaker brought. But who was it to bring? It was grandfather. It is the python, I said. And it has finished all our dinner. Oh, it is python. It has finished all our dinner. It ate away all our dinner. Surprisingly screamed the speaker. Nonsense, said grandfather. Pythons like their food alive. Why this is an old hamper? why this is an old hamper which was stored in the storeroom. The one with our food in it must have been left behind. So, what nonsense are you speaking? Said the grandfather. Pythons don't eat such food. They eat the food alive. They don't eat paratas, sweets, and all. What do they generally eat? They eat live food. Frogs, any animals, they just swallow. Okay. So it cannot eat such things, it said. He said. So, what is this? This is old hamper. The one in which we have packed our dinner is left behind in the storeroom. It is the hamper which was stored in the storeroom, which was kept in the storeroom. You got it by mistake. Actually, it is the old hamper. Actually, the one in which we have packed our food is left behind. We forgot to get it, said grandfather. Grandfather snapped the hamper shut and pushed it back beneath the berth. So, very soon, grandfather closed the lid of the hamper and he pushed it under the seat. Don't let grandmother see him, he said. He said, don't tell grandmother about Python. Don't let her to see him. Don't allow her to see him, said grandfather. A little after midnight, there was a great noise at the end of the corridor. Grandfather and I got up to see what was wrong. Little after midnight, they were doing night journey. At midnight, they could hear lot of noise at the corridor, at the other end of the corridor. So they were both grandfather and the speaker wanted to see what had happened over there. Suddenly there were cries of snake, snake. I looked under the berth. The hamper was open. People were screaming, shouting, oh, snake is there, snake is there. Okay. So, suddenly the speaker bent down the seat and saw, but the hamper was open. What? The snake, python pushed up the lid and came out and he went out. The python's out, I said, and grandfather dashed out of the compartment in his pyjamas. The python's out. Here, how is the sentence given? Pythons. It is not plural. Pythons out means it is used as contraction, not. Yesterday I taught you about the apostrophes, but it is not apostrophe, it is called contraction. Short form of Python is contraction, we call it. Python is written in a short form like this. The python is out. I said, and grandfather dashed out means rushed out, ran out of the compartment in his pyjamas. We can't go into the washroom. A passenger said, there is a huge snake inside. We can't go into the washroom. He wanted to go. There is a huge, very big python in the washroom. I can't go, said the passenger. Passenger means a person who travels in bus or train. Grandfather and I entered the washroom together, but there was no sign of a python. So they knew that it is theirs. If they say it is ours, people will beat them. Nobody will allow such animal in the train. No? So they calmly went into the bathroom or washroom to see whether the python is there. But actually, there was no python in the washroom also. He must have gone out through the ventilator, said grandfather. At the house up we will have small windows, no, they are called ventilators, which allows impure water, air to go out. Okay, so they thought the python has gone out through the ventilator. Through the ventilator. When we got back to our compartment, grandmother was sitting up on her berth. So after checking, they couldn't get the snake back, so they came back to their places. By then what happened? Grandmother also got up and she sat on the seat. You told me you would left that creature behind, and all the time it was with us on the train. She scolded. You people told you are not carrying any unusual pets with. And even then you got the python with you. And all through our journey it is with us. She scolded both the grandfather and the grandson. It's gone, so you will never see it again, said grandfather. It must have fallen out of the washroom window. Even as he spoke, the train slowed down and came to a grinding halt. You don't worry, now you cannot see it. Already it has left the train through the ventilator. I think it went out through the ventilator. It must have fallen down. Who knows what had happened? When they were discussing this all, the train came to a sudden halt. Grinding halt means sudden halt, means the train stopped suddenly. No station here, said grandfather, putting his head out of the window. And together we hurried towards the engine. No station here. Why the driver stopped the train here? Then they knew about their python. It must have entered the compartment where the driver drives the train. So grandfather and the speaker went towards the engine. Grandfather said to the engine driver, anything I can do to help? I know all about engines. So grandfather asked him, may I help you with the engine? I know everything about the engines. But the engine driver was speechless. The python had curled itself around his legs, and the driver was too frightened to move. The driver was speechless, was just silent. He was very much afraid. Why? Because the python has rolled around his leg. He couldn't even move. So he was very much afraid. Just leave it to us, said grandfather, and dragging the python off the driver, he dumped the snake in my arms. The engine driver sank down to the floor, pale and shaking with fear. So you leave it to us, we will help you, he said. And he uncurled, removed the python from the driver's leg, and he handed it to the speaker. But out of fear, the driver became pale and speechless. He just sat on the floor. I think I would better drive the train, said grandfather. We don't want to be late getting into Lucknow. And before the driver could protest, grandfather had released the brakes and set the engine in motion. So, I can drive the train, said the grandfather. Before the engine driver could stop him, protest means stop him from driving the train, he just released the brakes, opened the brakes, and he started driving the train. So this is how the python created a very big problem in the train. So we are not allowed to take any unusual things in the train, not even the cats and dogs also. But people object, or even train people also object. This is a funny lesson about the snake trouble, how the snake troubled the passengers in the train. So here we stop. The lesson is over. I hope you understood. Tomorrow we will read the lesson and underline the difficult words in the textbook, and I will write on the blackboard also. Thank you, children.